For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, search engine optimization, also known as SEO, is the process of improving the volume or quality of traffic to a website from search engines through natural search results. Now, typically, the higher a website or web page appears in the search engine result pages, also known as the SERPs, the more visitors that web page will receive. Over 60 million Americans frequenting search engines daily. Few look past the first page for results. Another interesting fact is that of those 60 million potential customers, over 85% of those prospects have a search engine as their default search page or their opening page when they open their browsers. So for those who occupy the top ranking positions above the fold, which means those who are ranking the top 5 results you can see on your screen without scrolling, the value is very clear. What we're looking at here is a typical search engine result page, and the keyword that I used was very broad. It was just the word website. Well, just as the location in real estate is extremely crucial, timing and relevance is everything when it comes to search engine optimization. So most consumers, they see something of this nature, they'll search, they'll click, and then they'll either purchase or investigate the offer a little further. So depending on which pages are prominent in these search engine result pages, really determines who clicks what result. What we're going to look at right now, in particular, is that this is what we call the natural or organic search results. Natural listings appear on the left side of the screen. Typically, they are editorially given, which means that they appear there as a result of people linking to them, other people sharing it as a resource. These are very prominent places for your site to be listed if you really do wish to have a high click-through rate. Matter of fact, over 75% of actual consumers use natural search listings opposed to what we call the paid or sponsored listings. Now, pay-per-click, or PPC, is essentially, it provides you the ability to rank for any specific keyword that you want to, but once again it is sponsored. So even though it only does receive 25% of the click-through rate, it does allow a person, for example, to essentially create their strong pitch and call to action. So it eliminates the need for editorial content or review and just provides more of a sales page or squeeze page, if you will, so that they can essentially click through and get right to the meat and potatoes of your offer. So what we're looking at right now is there are two specific methods that search engines use to assess relevance, and one of them that's very important is the actual way that your content is structured, the programming platform that you use. In the past, for example, if you're familiar with Front Page, Dreamweaver, programs of that nature, there's something that was called a WYSIWYG editor, which is essentially saying what you see is what you get. Now, you'll note that WYSIWYG's editors, I should say, used a table-based layout, which means that tabular data was essentially structured for things like Excel, Microsoft, VisiCalc. It was just really used for numbers. However, in the beginning, it was very easy for people to actually add their text and images to table-based layout, and they also would use this to structure their pages. This sort of created confusion, as well as it leads to something that's called code bloat. So the idea is that the style sheet, which essentially determines what fonts are used, how your images are displayed, and all that, sort of migrated into something that's called cascading style sheet. So what we're looking at is tables versus CSS. You definitely want to use a cascading style sheet because it keeps the images and the text separate, and then it simply allows you to have a file that has all of your style sheet data within that is separate from the actual page. So your loading time is a lot faster. The structure is very coherent, so it actually, the search engine spiders get to the text first. They don't really get confused about the topic, and it's really a way that you can keep your page load time down, as well as increase your relevance for searching. So, title tags and metadata. You probably heard a lot about title tags. So, title tags and meta tags are essentially the first thing that search engines and human readers will see. Not only is this one of the most important metrics for both, but it truly is your opportunity to convey relevance as well as set the stage for conversion. For those of you not familiar with the term conversion, it implies getting a reader or viewer to perform the preferred action. In this instance, in the instance of depending on how you factor your message through your meta tags or descriptions, impacts whether or not your search results or your competitors wins that click and piques the interest enough for that person to investigate your value proposition further. A few things that you should keep in mind when you're crafting your titles are to keep your titles relevant. You don't want to try to optimize a page for more than 3 keywords. There's a reason for that later, which we can get into. But the more succinct and descriptive your titles are, essentially the more that page will be able to rank for a specific query. So, and you also want to create continuity throughout the document to reinforce relevance. So a scattered title equals diluted ranking. So you definitely want to avoid that. Right along, we're looking at some of the other metrics that search engines look at and deem worthy. This is, for example, the content. Now, you can utilize an old type of static page structure where you could, literally create each page in your website by hand, and that's fine if you want to do that. But now, since there are actually a million new pages a day being added by blogs alone, you're better off using a content management system that allows you to input the titles, the meta tags, and the content and images in such a way that it's really going to create that infrastructure where it's going to create all the links and reinforce the integrity of that site in and of its own self. But anyway, going back to the topic, you'll see here something that we call term frequency. So if I wanted to rank for the word competitive SEO, I would use that in my header tag, which is what we call the H1 tag, which is a title tag. Or reinforces the title. I would also use the keyword competitive or competitive SEO in a position that is close to the first area of the body tag. Now there's something that's called block segment analysis, which essentially diminishes the value of each metric. So for example, if I see something that's in the title that is not on the page, or if it's not on the page more than a few times, the relevance score for that particular keyword will diminish. But block segment analysis, more importantly, pays specific importance to where keywords appear. Now, for example, the closer that I'm actually placing this to the beginning of the sentence within the body, the more relevance it's going to get, as opposed to having it down in the footer somewhere or in the upper navigation. But the main factor that I'm trying to convey is that what you write does impact the relevance score. So you want to use your main keywords in the title. You want to use the keyword 4 or 5 times within that page. If it's, say, for example, if you have 1,000 words on the page, if you used it 5 times on the page, that would give you a relevant keyword density that says that, okay, we understand this is the context. Also, keywords surrounding the phrase that you want to rank for. If you want to use synonyms or other versions or singular or plural pronunciations of a keyword, that's also a great thing to do. You don't want to stuff keywords in, which means that you don't want to place 30 keywords on the page if there's only 100 words on the page. You really want to make sure that it's designed for natural language. So right along. So once we've talked about essentially the programming platform, you're definitely using a CSS layout, working with term frequency, which means that you want to have the content placed in specific locations to reinforce the relevance. You also have to think of now what happens is search engines have to actually be able to assess this information. So we know that attracting search engine spiders or user agents is very important, because without that you really will not be able to rank. So one method is by adding fresh content, or having a high content frequency will increase activity from search engine spiders. And so since they are essentially the bouncers of the web, the rule of thumb is before you can rank in search engines, you have to get indexed. So you want to make sure that your pages are avoiding things like spider traps. For example, if you have dynamically loading pages, where something that's going to create a hiccup and load over and over again, so instead of it seeing actually 10 pages, it might see 1,000. These types of things can throw off your search engine results. So you want to avoid that. One thing you can do is you can use SEO tools to see if your site's crawlable. If not, you need to revise your site structure. Another option is using sitemaps. You can use XML or HTML sitemaps. XML is an abbreviation for Extensible Markup Language, and HTML is Hypertext Markup Language, which are just two predominant formats. The XML sitemap is really for search engine spiders. The HTML version would be for human readers. But in which case, what this does is it allows a user to sort of navigate their way around your website, as well as it allows spiders to discover other pages. And so when you think about search engine spiders, the way that they discover the site, or any site for that matter, is through links. And so that's essentially how they crawl your pages. So it's very important. Sitemaps do assist that. ROR, XML, and HTML sitemaps are definitely a plus.